Howdy all you delicious people, I'm here today to review Superman Lois Season 2, episode 13. Worst Superman and Lois episode ever. With the exclusion of the training stuff that they were doing with Jordan. And eventually the John Henry Irons and the Natalie stuff. Everything else was to be just like, God, how can you just fill time in the show? God, are they just limping on through the rest of the season? Did they find out they're not getting renewed? Is that it? Or is Superman and Lois getting renewed for a third season? They are just limping on from like a bulk of this season. How? And I don't care if people are hurt, sick. Like, we've had months. We had a month of time away from this show for the most point, and then they filmed one episode, or they filmed all those episodes. And like, what, is there not enough time off for these characters? Do they want to eventually like what else do they need to eventually be on the show more? Are they burnt out? What's going on? Oh, it was a COVID scare. That was like 4 weeks ago. Are they not getting the time off that they need to just be not on the show? I don't know. It's just whatever. I'm upset. I'm frustrated. But not only that, we have Allie, who is to be Parasite now. They dubbed her the Parasite name. And I am like, I'm sorry, I don't want a cult leader to be Parasite. I actually like Parasite. He's an interesting character, used anywhere else but this. And then we have them to just dub this character Parasite because they didn't know what else to do with this character. This is the worst. Just the worst. So with that said, let's just go into teeing it up. So in this episode, we have, of course, Sam, Lane, Lois, and Lucy, who are going on and doing a mission to get to Allie. And we have Chrissy, who's on the mission, but she's basically treated like a 10-year-old, or she's treated like a dog, and she's just to be left in this car. And why? But not only that, do we also go on and have to eventually having Jonathan being a whiner, because like, oh well, I did all the chores while you guys were all away. But not only that, like, Jonathan is still like asking his father about like, well, when is it gonna be that I'm just gonna be like out of the doghouse? And like, Superman is like, well, son, you were never really in the doghouse. You were never really in the doghouse, son, but like, you're gonna make your mistakes and you're gonna learn from them. And I'm like, oh my god. Let me right now. Let me get a gag reflex from all this soap that I'm eating in this episode. But then we go on and we have Jordan talking to Lana about Jordan and Sarah's relationship. Because if we're reminded from a recap of like, you're breaking up with me. Oh my god. The trauma of consistently seeing that recap, I swear to God, if I see that one more goddamn time, I am going to throw a fit. I'm going to be ticked. I don't want to see that stupid Jordan thing of, oh, you're breaking up with me. No. That is the worst thing that they keep playing back. Oh my god. Ooh. And we go on and we also have god, what else is the soap? We go on and we have to have Lana finding out that Sarah was to be at a bar, and that leads to going on and having eventually Kyle confronting Lana. Eventually, the Cushing family are all to have a dinner together, and yay, more of the Cushings if we couldn't get enough of those effers. And then the showdown between Allison and Superman. And Super No Man, because he may not be a man with possible things by the end of this episode. Possible things that would make him be on the rest of the season, maybe. Who knows? I'm not quite sure. We'll figure it out when we get to it. But anyways, that said, I think it's about that time to just go into spoilers. Let's simplify this bad boy up, because I've already technically said too much within teeing up, so let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time, it's about that time we get to spoil this episode. Even though it's not a thumbs up episode, I have thumbs up anyways. But it's far down. It's the worst. So, in the very beginning of this episode, we have Lucy meeting Allison in a book signing, where it's like, oh yeah, like, Allison, I really liked your book. How about you brainwash me? And Allison's like, well, yeah, like, I want to brainwash you because you are technically Lois Lane's sister. And Lucy's like, well, yeah, I am, right? Like, you're gonna completely forget about, like, who I am and just focus that, like, you can get to me, or you can get to my sister to get to Superman via me. And Lucy's like, no, like, I'm gonna pretend that I'm gonna go on really focused on your problems and your gripes, and, like, I'm gonna see how horrible it or tough it must be to be living under the shadow of Lois Lane. I'm gonna really focus on that, and just kind of hear you whine and cry and complain like you're gonna do throughout this episode to Lois and your dad. I couldn't go on and do sports and after school activities because babysitters weren't able to be a thing. I'm crying. That's Lucy and Lois complaining about their troubled youth because there was no mother there to have them do after school activities for school, because babysitting was a thing to have instead. Whatever. So we then go on and we later have Allison and Lucy meet back up, and Lucy is giving Allison an update somewhere in this story about how Lucy is talking to Allison and saying, like, well, like, if you go on and you meet my sister, like, she's gonna go out of her way to figure out how to stop you. And Allison is just going on of like, well, okay, all right. So that ends up happening. Let's focus on the John Henry Irons and Natalie stuff, so I can kind of get away from that, because that's garbage. And Parasite, what the is this? So John Henry Irons is to be talking to Natalie, and it seems like they were gonna have some breakfast, and so like because John Henry Irons has been working really hard on this tech, and so we have John Henry Irons that tells Natalie to go off and get him a breakfast burrito, and all of a sudden he's using his little gadget, whatever the heady or whatever the goofy name of this thing is, and so we have John Henry Irons that is to go on and realize that he is to want to do something with his suit, but then the AI is telling John Henry, it's like, well, which suit? He's like, what do you mean? So, come to find out, the AI is to tell John Henry Irons that there are two suits available, and he's like, what? So he goes on and finds Natalie's suit is to put it out there and is to look at it and be like, So Natalie is to come back, and John Henry Irons is telling Natalie, it's like, well, hey, when were you going to tell me that you had this suit? And Natalie is like, well, like I was going to tell you today. Yeah, I'm sure she probably wasn't. She even told Jordan and Jonathan before she even told her own father. Man, does that gonna sting. I'm sure there's gonna be something that comes up later about that. Where it's like Jordan and John Henry, or Jordan and Jonathan are like, oh, we already knew about this suit. So we go on and we have John Henry that is telling Natalie that she needs to destroy the suit. Like, are you going to do it or am I? And Natalie's like, well, I only build things, I don't destroy them. And so we go on, and I understand that, like, John Henry Irons says that Natalie's 15, and, like, she's not probably old enough or responsible enough, because great power comes with great responsibility, because Spooderman. And we also have a Star Wars reference in this episode. Isn't that great? But so we go on and we have John Henry Irons that tries to destroy the suit, and come to find out that Natalie's suit is way better than John Henry Irons, and so John Henry Irons can't destroy it. And then he's like, well, I guess this is a really good suit. Maybe you should upgrade frickin' mine. Like, why didn't you go on and try to update my frickin' suit? Because I'm the one that's kind of been like almost getting killed here, and you have all this like upgraded stuff. When am I gonna get a tune-up, huh? But so we have it to where like it seems that John Henry Irons will accept that Natalie is going to have this suit because he can't destroy it anyways. So John Henry Irons, I think, is gonna like really go on and like get behind his daughter being in the suit, and I was like, yeah, because I was like, I don't want Jonathan to like, I didn't want Natalie to just hand this off to Jonathan. No, I wanted Natalie to be in the suit because like I feel that will be like really good for the show. Even though, yeah, like the suits aren't exactly cosmetically pleasing right now, and eventually they probably will be, and they'll probably have a horse design that I won't like eventually somewhere down the road. Um, but yeah, like Natalie getting this suit was freaking great, and her using it, I was like, this is the best part of the show, out of pure garbage that they were spluing out, splidooing. So with that said, and I'm going to be all over the place with this episode because I want to cover the stuff that I either liked the most or just want to just kind of shove that out there. So there's that. So we go on and we also have Clark that's breaking to both Jordan and Jonathan that Lana wants some distance from her family to theirs. And we're going on and we're having Jordan who's like, but like Sarah and me, like we might be in love. And Clark is just like, well, like, I'm sorry, son, but like we're just gonna have to put that on hold for now. Uh, really, like Lana having to know this secret is I guess tougher than we were to have assessed or assumed. So Jordan is to make his way to go on and speak to Lana, and so Jordan is to go on and say to Lana, it's like, well, like, but I can protect Sarah because I have powers, and Lana is to go on and say to Jordan, it's like, well, hey, like, wasn't Sarah kidnapped at one point because Tag wanted to get to you? Like, no, I don't think that she'll be at all safe. So, you know what? Like, girlfriend denied, Jordan. Girlfriend denied. Like, yeah, like Lana is saying that since Jordan is to have superpowers, that like Sarah will not be safe around Jordan. So yeah, so Jordan needs to just no longer ever date Sarah to protect her. So I'm kind of waiting here for there to be a time when Sarah's life is in jeopardy and Jordan does not go on and save her. And then Lana is to have to want to turn to either Superman or to turn to Jordan and just be like, well, hey, like, you didn't want me involved in this girl's life. You didn't want me involved in your family. I hope this comes back to bite her in the Batukus sometime soon. Please let this happen to where Sarah's life is in jeopardy and she is near death, and then Lana runs to Superman and Jordan and is now ticked off because like, hey, why didn't you save my daughter? It's like because like we were trying to honor your wishes. Maybe you made a freaking mistake by telling us to back off and your daughter died because of it. That would be some poetic justice right there. Just be like, what was that, Lana? What were you saying before about me backing away from you and not to realize that, like, the safest place for your daughter to probably be in is with a person that has superpowers to come and save them? But that's just me. So, speaking of the Cushing family, I guess I gotta get this out of the way. So we go on and we have it to where Sarah is again singing music. So is Kyle in this effing episode. So isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful? Isn't it lovely? I'm sure it is. So for two people, anyways, maybe less. So we go on and have Sarah like consistently watching this video of her performing, and Lana catches it and she's like, "Hey, like, where are you performing at? You're not performing at the bar that your father had an affair with a woman with, right? You're not, right? And plus, also, you're not in legal drinking age to go to this bar. Hmm." So we go on, and so Lana is now like ticked off at Kyle for doing all this stuff, but Lana also wanted to be involved in that. She wanted to see Sarah perform, and she just kind of feels left out. And so now we have it to where Sarah is to go to Kyle and tell Kyle, like, well, hey, mom's mad because I went to this bar that technically, like, your ex-lover was in, and this and that, and, like, mom's ticked. So we then go and have Kyle going to speak with Lana, and so eventually Lana and Kyle, like, Lana is just so ticked by all the secrets that she's been having lately, uh, that eventually she's kind of like just been on a warpath lately, and she's just been so um, like upset with people, that she's kind of gone on and lost sight of the fact that she really wanted to be there for Sarah in this performance. And so Kyle is like, well, hey, how would I just go on and smooth everything's over by just having us have a dinner? And Lana's like, well, I don't know what people will see with us going to a dinner together. And Kyle is just like, it's a it's a family dinner. We have to go on and like go to this place and have everybody see how wonderful children we have. And Lana's like, well, yeah, but I also want to talk about like that bar, and like my girl singing at a bar. And Kyle's like, we'll get to that, but let's go on and just have this dinner. So they go on and have this dinner, and it seems like the Cushing family are having a good time. It seems like everyone's happy, and really, that's all I give a rip about. So let's move on. So we have it where Chrissy is now upset with Lois because it seems that of course Allie was keeping secrets from Chrissy, but it seems that Chrissy's to realize that Lois is also keeping secrets also. And so, because we have it to where Lois is to be asking Chrissy if there's any information that Allie was to give, uh, like during the time that Chrissy was with Allie, and Chrissy's like, no, like Allie kept a lot of things to the vest, like some people I know. And so we have it to where Chrissy is to mention that Clark was to supposedly be doing a project or report for this Gazette, and he was gone for a month to go on and do that, and like he hasn't shown any like any real like paper thing, anything like that. And so we also go on and have Chrissy, while she's in the car, looking up Clark Kent's like information and saying that at some point that Chrissy is going to have yet another argument coming soon with Lois at some point. And so I'm like, okay, what is like. But we transition to have Sam come in and is telling Lois that she needs to come with him, because they're going to eventually go and get Lucy, and eventually, hopefully, this will eventually have us also get to Allison. So Chrissy wants to go along, and we of course have Sam, who's kind of like, ugh, but eventually they just let Chrissy sit in the car. So we go on and we have Sam and Lois, who are to eventually go to this complex, as we have a number of Allison fangirls and fanboys leaving this compound, because, like, hey, where is Allison? Like, where has she been? And so Allison is going on and telling Bizarro World that her next plan is that she's going to merge the two planets together, but she needs to absorb the power of Superman to possibly be able to merge the two Earths together. And I'm just like, oakley dokley, but we also have the Bizarro Lois Lane that is going on and watching this on TV, realizing like, oh my god, this is going to be their next grandiose plan. and it feels like the Bizarro world has no heroes besides Superman defend for them, because Tal-Rho is now dead. Lana is to be on Allison's side, and we also have it to where when Allison is to arrive to meet with Sam, Lois, and Lucy after they're done bickering like little biddies about how their past was, because they have to keep bringing up the past because they, I guess, have nothing to talk about the present, because they've already went through and talked about that in length, I guess, through other episodes. We even have at points where Sam is cuffing Lucy and then uncuffing her. And I'm just like, okay, all right. Just there was points to that. Like, yeah, she's really gonna get away from you, because she's too busy bickering with Lois and you, Dad, about what's going on, or about their past and whatever. So we go on and we have Sam, Lois, and Lucy who are to meet up with Allison and a number of her club members. And so we go on and have the club members going on and searching Sam to find a device that can possibly call Superman. And so now I have to go on and get to some Superman stuff. So we go on and we have it where Clark is to go on and tell both Jordan and Jonathan that, hey, how about we go on and we do chores like the good old days. And so we go on and Jordan goes off instead to speak with Lana. And so now Clark and Jonathan are going and doing chores, fixing up this tractor. And so that's when Jonathan and Clark are talking about Jonathan's past and how even his doppelganger is to be doing the wrong things. And Clark is just like, well, hey, like you both are young, you're gonna learn, you're gonna make mistakes, and this and that. It's always like the very generic parenting that we just go on and have to just get from Clark here. Like, we never get anything really like unique within these speeches of just like Clark having to try to resolve all of this garbage. But yeah, Jonathan was never really in the doghouse, and Jonathan is to still think he's in the doghouse. And so it's whatever. Like, we still have this guy who has to redeem himself by doing what? Nothing. He has to redeem himself, but he's not doing a lick of anything to get that redemption. He's not donning a cape and cowl and saving people because he doesn't have superpowers. So he's just left with going on and just still being a person that is to just like keep asking for like, oh, am I redeemed? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, when? And it's like, probably never. So even though we accepted and we said that you're still not in the doghouse, you're in the doghouse because you've done nothing to like turn any of that around. But anyways, so when Jordan comes back after talking to Lana, Clark whisks Jordan away to go on to the Arctic, right around the Fortress of Solitude, but not inside of it, just kind of around it. So Superman is to have to try and teach Jordan how to fly, because he's going to eventually have to be Superman at some point, while Superman is freaking crippled or injured or whatever. He's human eventually by the end of this episode for some reason. It's really a big, massive disappointment. But so we go on and we have Jordan that is to have to learn to fly, and the way he learns how to fly is basically his dad just tosses him off a ledge, and Jordan continues to fall until he can finally just go on and learn how to fly. And then he's flying, but then he has problems landing because, like, he's going to have to learn how to do these things. So Clark and Lois, or Clark and Jordan, are talking about how cool that was that Jordan flew, and that um, that it was to have Jordan say that it was way better than any of the training that Sam was giving him, and so Clark was to go on and say that he wants to give Jordan another kind of thing to do, which is to be similar to the Kessel Run. And Jordan's like, wait, what's the Kessel Run? And so we go on, we have a Superman and Lois show that references Star Wars without being able to say that it's Star Wars because that's a Marvel thing. Or that's a Disney thing. Really. Because Disney bought out Marvel. Anyways, pushing on. So, yeah, isn't that great to just have a DC show referencing Star Wars? And they can't even say where it's from because heaven forbid, right? Anyways, to try to promote another company that has comic book characters. Anyways, so we have Clark and Jordan who comes back home to have Jonathan just be bickering and just be upset because it's like, oh, I did all the chores. Boo-hoo-hoo. I did all the chores, everybody. Pushing on. So we have it to where Lucy is holding on to the trigger of the Superman signal, and Chrissy is calling the DOD, and so John Henry Irons is to intercept that call, and so now Natalie and John Henry Irons are getting ready to go after Allison, and so Allie is forcing Lucy to call Superman because Allie is draining Sam, torturing him to have Lucy call Superman. So Lucy does. Superman ends up appearing, and then Allison just sucks the life out of him, so much so that he dies. And so we go on, we have John Henry Irons and Natalie that end up saving the day here by, of course, having John Henry Irons use the exact same throwing of the axe thing that he's used or throwing of the hammer thing over and over, to the point where Allison is to know it's coming and is to stop it, and then is to have that hammer go flying back and hit John Henry. And I just want to call him Steel. I just do, because that's his actual name. But so we have Natalie that goes on and is to, after Superman is to seem to be dead, Natalie is to try to revive Superman. Like, F Sam, if he's dead, he's dead, but Superman needs to be revived. So, because what ends up happening is we are to eventually have it to where Allison is realizing that she is to, of course, be outnumbered here, and then so she kind of buggers off. So we have it to where Natalie is reviving Superman and is trying to use as much power as possible to revive him, and he does get revived. So Superman is now in a hospital, so also is Sam. And so come to find out, Superman is to be so weak that he's to be a human equivalent. So, like, this guy has absolutely no powers. He's basically mortal like everyone else now. And so we go on and we have Lucy that's just in tears talking to Sam, saying that he has to be like observed overnight, that he has a concussion and this and that. And Sam is like, well, like, I've had concussions before and this and that. And so Lucy's like, I don't know how I could have gone and just been manipulated this way, and and Sam is just like, it's fine and whatever. So Lucy is to realize that what she has done was a massive mistake, that really Lucy was just being played, and like, wow, what an amazing idea that would be. Like, man, if someone could have told me that Lucy was going to get played, I would have been like massively surprised. Uh, this is a massive shock to realize that Lucy was going to get played by Allison, especially because Allison only gives an F about Bizarro World, and that's about it. So we go on and we have John Henry Irons that's telling Lois here that these guys are easily to be able to penetrate Superman's skin, and that eventually Lois has to break it to Jordan and Jonathan that Superman is or would be okay if he was a normal human being, but since he's an alien, like, there's something wrong. And there's a possibility that Superman may no longer have the ability to have powers ever again. And I'm like, oh my god, you have got to be kidding me. Like, toss him into some solar powered suit, or like just fly him next to the sun and just get him some powers, because this is ridiculous. So with that said, I think that's where I just want to leave off this episode, to just call it a day. Just really frustrated with this show. But there it is. Hopefully, I've covered most of this episode. There may be some rebuttals or recapping within the next week. If anything I forgot about, because I'm sure there was, because like any of this stuff that kind of went on to this episode, I was just like, bah. Like, I just want to get so badly past this episode into a episode that is less soapy. So with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy. Yeah, this episode was so dialogue heavy, and that's normally where I don't usually like a lot of movies or a lot of shows. So, because eventually, like, the dialogue gets lost on me, I don't really want to concentrate on that at all. But that's where a lot of this episode was, so isn't that great? So, goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.